Hey guys, so I just got home from seeing Terminator Dark Fate starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Mackenzie Davis, Gabrielle Luna, and Natalia Reyes. So this film pretty much resets the franchise, so this is the official part 3. Forget those other films ever existed, much like Halloween did with the remake recently with Jamie Lee Curtis returning to the role of Laurie Strode. It was the direct continuation from that original John Carpenter classic. So it's basically rebooting the franchise and giving it some love, because the Terminator films of late have been pretty, well, mediocre. Like, I have found some enjoyment out of most of the sequels to Terminator. Like T2 obviously is the best one. It's the pinnacle of the franchise. It's amazing. It's one of the best sci-fi action films ever made. James Cameron is a god. But the sequels, Rise of the Machines, Salvation, and Genesis, yeah, not as good, right? Because, well, T2 was incredible. It was a hard act to follow. I enjoyed Rise of the Machines. I thought it had a pretty good cast, and the Terminatrix was a fun villain. Salvation with Christian Bale and Sam Worthington, set in the time of the machines rising up and fighting the human resistance. And there was a really bad CGI Arnie in that one. So yeah, not very good. And then of course we had Genesis, which was going to be like a reboot of the franchise in itself, but failed miserably. I had high hopes for that one, but we all know how that one turned out. Even though they're not as good, I did find some enjoyment out of them. Like, I could pop them on and watch them and not have a bad day. But Terminator Dark Fate definitely does get back to the true tone of the original vision of James Cameron. It's a fun, entertaining film, but it definitely is the best sequel since Terminator 2, which is a really good thing to say. Linda Hamilton is back as Sarah Connor. That is amazing. What a coup. I hear Tim Miller wasn't going to do this film if she hadn't signed on. And of course, Tim Miller's most famous because he directed Deadpool, which garnered a lot of love. It was a great fun film. Schwarzenegger is back as the T-800, Carl, in this one. He's always a great presence on screen. I've loved Schwarzenegger for years. But the true standout in this new film is Mackenzie Davis as Grace. What a powerhouse of a performance. So she's essentially in the role of Reese in this one, the Michael Biehn character from Terminator 1. She's the human sent back by the Resistance to take on the Terminator, who's been sent back to assassinate a target who was going to affect the future in some way. So in the previous films with Sarah Connor and John Connor, he was going to be the leader of the Resistance. So in the first film, Sarah Connor was the target, and then in T2, the Terminator come back for John. In part 3, well, you know what, we don't need to discuss part 3, 4 or 5 because they don't exist anymore. So I don't want to go into spoilers now because I want you to be surprised when you go to this film. And should you see it? Yeah, you should, because it's a good action film. It's the best one in a long while, which is good. So entertaining, yeah, lots of action set pieces. Linda Hamilton was great. Mackenzie Davis was great. Natalia Reyes as Danny Ramos was good as well. And Gabrielle Luna as the Rev 9, the new Terminator, is menacing and great, and really channeled Robert Patrick quite a lot in this one. He was kind of almost feline in his movements, and, you know, not as big as Schwarzenegger ever was, but very fast and an efficient killing machine. He was quite good in this movie. So the plot, yeah, hasn't changed too much over the years. You have a human and a Terminator coming back in time to protect and or assassinate an intended human target who is going to affect the future. Like I said, part 1, part 2, yeah, it's the same. Really cool seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800, who has stayed behind and just aged. Like they touch base on that in Genesis as well, but it's carried out better in this one. Like I said, it does feel like a Terminator film. It definitely fits that tone that Cameron envisioned in those first 2 movies, and it does stand as part 3 to a really good couple of films. So if you did Terminator and then Terminator 2 and then this one, you're going to have a pretty good afternoon in. It rounds the story out quite nicely. I don't know if they're going to progress from this one, like if they're going to do more sequels, but if they do, I hope Linda Hamilton comes on board again, because the secret sauce we've been missing all these years is Sarah Connor. She is the heart and the backbone of this Terminator franchise. It's always been about the human element. Sure, we've got these robots and all the sci-fi stuff, which is amazing, but it's always been about the people, the normal everyday Joe standing up against this amazing threat and becoming amazing in their own right. So from that first film, Sarah Connor's transition into who she becomes in T2 was just astounding. In that first film, she was a meek waitress. In the second one, she's a kick-ass warrior. In this one, she's a grizzled older lady, but she still kicks ass. And Mackenzie Davis as well, man. She was freaking amazing in this film. So I do want to go too much into spoilers in that first part of my review because I want people to just kind of get an idea if they should go and see this film or not. And of course, movies are subjective. You're going to form your own opinion no matter what you do. You're going to love it or hate it. But for me, I really, really enjoyed this film. Now, going into spoilers though, so big red flag. I'm going to touch on a few things that happen in this film that you probably don't want to know. So if you want to leave now, go ahead and see the movie, then probably come back. But yeah, we start the film in 1998. So Terminator 2 came out in 1991 and was set in 1995, 2 years before Judgment Day. Sarah Connor, John Connor, and the Terminator taking on Cyberdyne and stopping Skynet ever exploding and destroying the world. Judgment Day, 1997. They did that. They changed fate. They stopped it. So this one opens up in 1998. We have a very young Sarah Connor, CGI'd, Linda Hamilton, looking very good, by the way. They did a good job making her look younger. And Eddie Furlong is back as well. I don't think he actually turned up and did any filmings because the John Connor we have in this film is exactly like the John Connor from T2. He's young, he's fresh-faced, and little, which is kind of confusing to me because this is where I initially had a bit of confusion in regards to the timeline. So the events of Terminator 2 happened in 1995. 3 years later, John Connor still looks the same as he did in T2. He hasn't aged those 3 years. I was halfway through the movie and I went, wait a minute, when was this movie set? And I was trying to rack my brain to think about when T2 was set. Like, I knew 1997 was that important date, that Judgment Day date, but the events of T2 happened a couple years before that. So it's been 3 years from 95 to 98 and John Connor looks the same. Anyway, that's beside the point. He might have just looked young still, but John Connor's here and him and his mother are in some kind of exotic location. They've saved the world. The Terminators are no longer a threat, but Arnold Schwarzenegger turns up and they promptly kill John Connor off in the first 5 minutes of the film. So everything that happened in T2 is now worth nothing because John Connor, the leader of the resistance, is murdered and killed in the opening 5 minutes of this new film. So that was like, I enjoyed it. It was well done and it was a curveball I wasn't expecting. I mean, John Connor was always the leader of the resistance for so long and such a pinnacle part of the franchise. So to have him murdered by the Terminator, and they do murder him, they kill him good, was a surprise. So that Terminator walks off into the sunset having carried out his mission, and Sarah Connor's just there grieving her murdered son. So everything they did was just worth nothing. So I think that is what a lot of people are not liking about this film. They kind of just take T2 and just wipe it away. But I went with it. I was like, wow, really? They went there? They did that? So yeah, I went with the story. So the Sarah Connor we have in this film is now a very bitter, angry woman who is so twisted and angry that she just takes revenge out on any Terminator that she now finds. So she's getting these text messages from a mysterious number telling her the coordinates and time of a time anomaly. She doesn't know who's sending these messages to her, but we all know that's the Terminator that walked off into the sunset who becomes Carl in this one. He kind of finds a life and develops emotions, becomes more human. But anyway, that's the Terminator. That's where he ends up in this film. But he's sending her these messages because he knows when there's a time disturbance. So she goes to these spots, the air splits open, a Terminator drops out, and she kills it. So the new target is now Natalia Reyes, Dani Ramos. She is now the new resistance leader 20 years from now. Initially, it's kind of set up that she's going to be the mother of the leader of the resistance, just like Sarah Connor was in that first film. But no, she's the one. And Grace is the girl that she adopted in the future as a young girl and trained up to become a soldier. So she raised her and trained her and made her the woman that she was. So Dani Ramos sends Grace back in time to stop her own murder at the hands of this new Terminator. So that's the basic plot. So James Cameron wrote this one as well with a whole host of other writers, including David S. Goyer. So the story, it was good. Like I said, it was better than a lot of the other Terminator films I've seen in a while, but it was done well. Like the tone fit so perfectly with T1 and T2, but just having that surprise murder of John Connor at the beginning really did kind of throw me for a loop. but the action sequences were amazing. There was a pretty good car chase at the beginning, which is reminiscent of the bike and the truck chase from T2. They even reused one of the songs from T2. When Schwarzenegger first walked into the bar in T2, there was a song playing when he gets the coat and the jacket and has the bar fight. There's a scene in this movie when there's a family having a barbecue and that song's playing, and then the Terminator turns up and surprises everyone, but they have a few little callbacks. There was a scene when Linda Hamilton was looking through a chain link fence at a group of kids in a playground. We have Danny Ramos doing that in this one as well. So we have a few of those callbacks, which I find nostalgic. I enjoy them. But overall, yeah, I think it's definitely an improvement over the last few. No, by no means a great Terminator film. It's definitely a good Terminator film, but the great ones have already been done. Part 1 and Part 2. Anyway, guys, that's my review on Terminator Dark Fate. Should you see it? Yeah, go have a look. It's good on the big screen, these kind of things, man, with the action. I like it. Anyway, catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.